That's better. Yes. And this is part of a ongoing series where, rather than having the long intro, where I just sort of, um, have this sort of whole stream starting soon kind of situation, I just jump into it and just start streaming. Because I figured people just come and go as they please. I'm across different platforms at the moment, so if you're watching me on YouTube or Facebook or TikTok, no, actually, I'm not on TikTok tonight. I don't know what's going on with that. Not entirely sure what's going on with TikTok at the moment, but yeah, just I just go live on whatever platform I can. Yeah, and that's just easier. So yeah, if you're keen on following me on all different platforms, I'm on X as well as Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. Kick's the newest one that I've joined. I am curious to see how that plays out. I'm always curious to see how things go on platforms I am largely unfamiliar with. I give me a minute. So if you're wondering why the captain hat, this is sort of a if you know kind of situation. I'd like to go into it further, but a little bit of mystery I find is always fun, I guess. Just a modicum of intrigue really makes for better storytelling, I found. And this is a very old caricature of me that I drew back in 2020 of all time. So I had a lot of free time on my hands during the pandemic, and yeah, lo and behold, yeah, I decided to put it to some amount of good use. So here I am, revitalizing an old drawing of me. So this is the hat that I'm using as reference, by the way. So this right here. So this is my captain's hat. I picked this up from Amazon about a month ago now. I've always had an affinity for captain's hats. Like when I was a kid, um, my family won a trip to North Queensland. We went up to Cairns when I was I think maybe 8 or 9 years old, and yeah, it was a promotional thing. It was through chocolate biscuits of all things, Weston's Wagon Wheels, which is a kind of sweet treat, I guess you could say. Back in the 90s, we didn't call them sweet treats, obviously. We just called them junk food. But yeah, it was a really cool little prize that we won. Oh wait, no, they weren't. Wait a minute. What did I call them again? Yeah, they're wagon wheels. I think they were wagon wheels. Pretty sure they were wagon wheels. So yeah, we went up to North Queensland, and it was the first time we'd ever travelled, as a family to what I would regard as a noteworthy exotic destination. And I gotta say, I loved it. Absolutely adored that place. Like, we went on a full on, like, got to experience so many cool, interesting things. Like, it was a full on, like, package deal holiday. It was great. I remember, like, we stayed in a hotel, and we had it. It was like all expenses paid, and man, it was fun. And like North Queensland was completely different to anything in Australia that I had ever experienced. Like, I had no idea at the time that I was actually still in the same country that I was born in, if that makes sense. Like, it was just a whole new world, basically. Just give me a minute. Like, I saw a cane toad, a live cane toad for the first time, and I remember, like, the place we were staying at, very tropical, and the lizards that I was used to, like like growing up in Australia, there are lizards everywhere. But the lizards that I was used to, like, growing up in Victoria, were like, skinks that live in your backyard. Like, basically, every Australian home, especially ones that are closer to, like, bushland areas, they always have skinks in the backyard. They just come as a feature, like, that's where they live. Skinks really are the main wildlife in any given backyard of any note. And I remember, like, catching them as a kid, and me and, like, the next door neighbor, we used to try and, like, catch as many as possible. And I remember when we found like an absolutely massive one, and it was yeah, it was humongous, like full on, just this giant skink. And he had like this cement block, like this big. I think it was actually, it was more like a piece of marble, and he had it like um sort of on his. It was like a place to, put your shoes when you're about to go indoors to the mudroom or whatever. Anyway, the skinks used to hide under there just to like, warm up because they were usually pretty cold. And like we saw this massive skink. It darted underneath this big piece of stone, this big uh, square piece of stone, and we tried catching it by sort of lifting the stone up, and we accidentally ended up crushing the poor thing's head. So that was a real sad day. I think after that, our interest in catching skinks rapidly declined. We felt really sad for it, and we just sort of we kind of just stopped caring at that point. And he was really cool. Like he was my first like friend that I didn't go to school with. He was great. He was I think he was like a year or so older than me, or a couple of years older than me, and he was a great friend. For the life of me, I cannot remember his last name. But yeah. Anyway, why did I tell you that story? Yeah, well, in sort of a roundabout way, the lizards I was used to were like skinks, little fast darty things that lived on the ground, and you'd see um, out basking in the sun, and catching like slow moving insects and whatnot, and like just basically protecting the house from ants or whatever they ate. And I remember it was the first time I ever saw a gecko. So we were staying in the upstairs part of this particular hotel, and I remember seeing my first ever like gecko sort of pressed against the window, like, and I was fascinated because you just go to the bathroom and everything, you're washing your hands in the sink, and you look up and you see a gecko just chilling out, pressed against the window, and I'm like, that is so cool. And this was before, like, way before like mobile phones, internet, all kinds of stuff. And I still remember these things to this day. And that they make up some of my most vivid core memories from my childhood. Anyway, sorry, just sending a little message there. Just gotta check something real quick. All right, cool. And something else. Am I getting any sound? I hope I'm getting some sound. Yep, definitely getting sound. Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, if you're hanging out in the chat, feel free to make yourself known. Even if you just send me like a little emoji or whatever, just to prove that I'm not broadcasting to nobody, as the case usually is. Yeah, sorry for the dead air there. Oh, what's happening here? Interesting. So yeah, North Queensland was amazing, and I've been back there a couple of times. I was called up as a last minute replacement for another artist, like another local artist, and now the story as he tells it to me was he was changing a tire on his car, and as he was taking the old tire off and putting a new tire on, the tire, like the whole wheel, sort of bounced right up, and it like sprained his hand that he draws with. So basically, most of the caricaturists that I know of, we only ever draw with one hand. Like, we're either right-handed or left-handed, and that's it. Like, there's no other alternative. And he was hired by a client that was in North Queensland. Now, I'd never been to this part of North Queensland before, but I said, yeah, look, I can help you out. I can do it, but I am based in Sydney, so you're gonna have to pay for my flight, or the client rather is gonna have to pay for my flight and accommodation and everything like that. And normally, when it comes to clients um, that are interstate and they can't get anyone else, like that's it. They usually just cancel the whole job because they're just like, well, if you're in Sydney, mate, then we can't afford to get you all the way out here. It's just too much of a hassle. It's too short notice. But they could because this was a big government contract. Like, so I'm like, all right, cool. You're gonna have to book me my flights. You're gonna have to get me accommodation, and you're gonna have to pay for me to rent a car as well. And yeah, they did all that, and it was actually the first time that I'd ever rented a car. And like there are a few moments since becoming a grown up where I've felt more like a grown up. It's like this is a moment in my life where I get to say that, yeah, I did that. That's really cool. This is achievement unlocked. And for most people, it might seem like fairly innocuous, a bit silly, and kind of boring. It's like, dude, you just rented a car. You didn't, crack the Da Vinci Code or whatever. And yeah, I get that, but to me, it was like an important milestone. You know. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, yeah. In other news, it's not just this that I'll be working on tonight. And a few other bits and pieces. Anyway, I'm still working a little distracted. I keep checking my phone, which is not the most professional way of doing a live stream, but I'm pretty sure between me and the handful of people who are dedicated to watching, it's not that big a deal. So once we're at the half an hour mark, I do have to take just a quick break. Nothing too serious. And I'll come back to this soon enough. I also want to include some sunnies. And I actually have to find those as a reference as well, so I'll be right back. Do. Nothing too serious. Okay, the good news is I haven't really gone anywhere. The bad news is, the bad news is I can't seem to find the sunnies that I was going to use as a reference. So, oh no, I wasn't meant to draw them directly onto my face. Hang on. They were supposed to be on a separate layer. That is most unfortunate. Fortunately, I can easily erase that. So yeah, sunglasses are relatively easy to draw. You just have to make sure that they're sitting on the face and slightly off the face. Like they're propped up on the bridge of the nose and on the ears. So many times when I see glasses, they're not, like when they're drawn, they're not actually drawn correctly. Lots of updates. Somewhat jaunty looking, I guess. So yeah, like I was saying, when I visited North Queensland, like we kind of went for a bit of a stroll around the shops, and we checked out, some of the touristy areas like North Queensland, particularly Cairns. I keep saying North Queensland. We were staying in Cairns, which is very much a tourist town. Like the only real sort of industry in that area at the time that we could see were like sugar plantation farms. They weren't exactly known for much else beyond being the home of the Great Barrier Reef. Which, as it should be, it's like it's the reason why everyone goes there. When I was a kid, that's what we learned about. It's like, oh, the Great Barrier Reef. It's like one of the seven natural wonders of the world, and it can be seen from space and stuff like that. And I'm just like, wow, that's so cool. And you check it out, and yeah, it is amazing. It's very impressive, and it sprawls for like kilometers in all different directions and stuff. And you know, when you're there seeing it for the first time, you don't realize just how truly awesome it really is, because you only see like a portion of it. Yeah, and the majority of it is underwater. So that's all you'll really ever see. And we went on a glass bottom boat, and that was heaps fun. And I remember, 10:09. We went on a chartered, I guess, yacht. So we got a yacht trip, and that was super fun. And the yacht was called the Wave Dancer. I don't know if it's still. I don't know if it's still around. I mean, if it's still around at this point, it's probably pretty old. Because I think we went to this thing in like 1990. We went in like 92, 93, or 94. I can't remember which year, but it was a while ago. And I remember me, my brother, and my sister. You know, we got to sit on the deck of the Wave Dancer, and it really did dance on the waves. Like, it went, and it was so much fun, because like it would basically just bounce along. And you know, we found this nice little spot like up on the main deck. Like, we went exploring, and there's a big sort of catamaran type of ship. Well, it was like a small ship, and we went exploring, and we found a spot up on the main deck, like on the top, to you know, have a bit of a sunbake. And yeah, that was fun. And it's only now in my 40s that I'm traveling on ships again. And I don't mean like, you know, the Manly, like the Manly ferry or anything like that. Actually, it's getting kind of warm in here. Ah, it's better. Like, you know that it's going to be an absolute doozy of a summer when it's already spring and you have to turn the fans on. Yeah, the 90s were an interesting time. Like, it felt in many respects like we were waiting for something big to happen, but we weren't quite entirely sure what it was. Because this was before the internet really sort of became a thing. Like, most of us knew of the internet, but we didn't know like what it could actually be capable of. Like, and we weren't really appreciating at the time that we were pretty much the last generation to have a childhood that wasn't entirely online. Like, that's the millennials' legacy, like, so far. It's like we can say pretty much unequivocally that, yeah, we had a childhood devoid of email. I mean, I quite often, you know, wax nostalgic about growing up in a time where pretty much most of the adults in my life smoked cigarettes and learning a martial art was a good way to make yourself an even bigger target for the bullies. You gotta understand that back then, it was the Wild West, you know. Because we were the children of boomers, the generation that had it all. See, what I don't understand about a lot of the channels, like, you know, online, like TikTok channels, you know, that are just full on dedicated to hating boomers. I don't understand that mindset. I don't get it. Like, I mean, boomers, you know, they're annoying in their own special way, but no more annoying than any other generation. Like, there's still members of the silent generation kicking around. Like, believe it or not, Donald Trump is from the silent generation. Joe Biden is too. I mean, he's a much more like advanced in age member of that generation. But yeah, I mean, these people are old. These people are from a time where not just that they grew up in a time not only before the internet, they grew up before television. Like, the TV was an absolute luxury item. Like, we take TVs for granted now, but there was a time not that long ago when, outside of like the news, the only thing, and like maybe sport, the only thing that was on TV was like Doctor Who or a test pattern. That was it. Like, TV has not been around that long. So it was Father's Day recently. Well, yesterday. No, actually, no, the day before yesterday. Hang on, what day is it? Yeah, on Sunday. And yeah, it got me thinking about, like, what's the best gift for dads in general. And like, that's an unbelievably tough call to make, because as a man, you get to a certain age where you become categorically impossible to buy for. It's just a reality of the situation that you only have maybe three, like, gift ideas that you can, like, conceivably want, and even then you don't really care, because you like, at some point as well in your life, you think, I can either get this myself or I don't really want it. It's like, because I mean, you don't really, like, the stuff that you actually want, is either impossible for most people to afford, or you just feel like an idiot, like, suggesting it. It's like, oh, what would you like for your birthday? And it's just like, can you pay my bills? Because that's really all I want you to get me, is just, just, if you could just sort out my bills for me. You don't have to do it like any other time of the year, just this one time, and that would be cool. Or socks. Like, I can always use a fresh pair of socks, but even then, like, I usually have enough to see me through at least the next 5 to 8 years. Like, I don't, like, socks are not at a premium, but if you could pay a bill, that would be great. Like, I noticed this as a kid. Like, I found myself, kind of increasingly disinterested in stuff that was meant for me. It's one of the reasons why I can't really get into, the content posted by movie critics, because I'm like, you guys do realize you don't have to watch any of these things, right? Like, I know that you sort of have made a career for yourself, and in so doing, a bit of a rod for your own back, but you're not being compelled to watch any new Star Wars movie, or really any movie whatsoever. It's like, you don't have to subject yourself to this level of pop culture to try and prove a point. Like, there's a few of these channels on YouTube that I follow, and part of me is like, yeah, of course. I mean, obviously Hollywood should be, taking notes and, being more open to the ideas put forth by the quote true fans unquote. But at the end of the day, like, they're still gonna do their own thing, and like, the guys who make such a hullabaloo out of all this, this such and such a show is like all woke now and stuff. And yeah, I get it, but part of me is like, guys, are you really losing this much sleep over the fact that Pedro Pascal's in everything? I was watching this thing by a channel called The Critical Drinker, and he puts out some pretty decent content. Like, I like his stuff. His Scottish accent's a bit dense. I can't always understand what he's saying, but he still has he makes some excellent points. He's very concise with his analysis on stuff, and like, if there's one person's opinion who I can at least appreciate enough to agree with, it's his. But that being said, I'm just like, dude, why are you quite so upset about this? It's not that important. Like, this is grand scheme of things stuff. It's just not gonna. I downloaded some new brushes. Let me see if I can find them. Are they in painting? I think they might be in painting. I'll try this one. So I finally got fed up with the brushes that come as the default, and decided to try something new. Let's see, it's something gloaming. Where are they? They're an imported. Of course they're an imported. Pfft, silly. All the way down the bottom. I've always been a fan of cop shades. They're just so cool. I love them. So I paid for and downloaded a whole bunch of new brushes and new fonts, and basically just want to sort of inject some variety into Procreate, which I have been using this program to draw like 99% of all my digital art since 2016. Like, I cannot stress enough how amazing this app, this drawing app really is. However, it's not perfect. There are things with it that I do not like, and I am really wanting, the development team to consider changing. Like, I'm thinking of making an entire rant video about it, but I actually don't think I have the time. You ever randomly just think about a celebrity or a singer or just an artist that you admire or remember from your youth and just think, I'm gonna go on, and then you sort of you go on Facebook or whatever, and you're just scrolling through, and you see an article about them, and for just a couple of seconds, you just think, please don't be dead. If anything about you has happened, I want to read about it, but like you see an older celebrity that you haven't like thought about in years, and you think, you know what, they made a really cool song that's like, still one of my favorites, and then you just sort of you roll past them, like, while you're doom scrolling, and you see an article about him and go, Phil Collins looks really frail. I hope he's okay. It's just stuff like that. And you just sort of you remember just how old these celebrities really are. Like Ozzy Osbourne, I was listening to Bark at the Moon, and I love that song. Like of his like solo career stuff, top 10, hands down, one of my favorite of his songs. I absolutely love that song. And it's not just because the song is an absolute banger, it's also the fact the music video is hilarious, because they dress up Ozzy as a tormented like guy in a castle somewhere, like, he's sort of shunned and he's despised and everything, and he's running around this haunted castle, and he transforms into a werewolf. And the werewolf costume for Ozzy is it's not like your traditional sort of werewolf, like, American Werewolf in London kind of thing. It's not like, Michael Jackson transforming into a giant, like, werecat. No, they make Ozzy Osbourne into Ozzy Osbourne if he was like a vampire Yeti Sasquatch thing. Like, he looks like Bigfoot running around with like long claws and teeth and stuff. Like, if I could compare it to anything else, Sabretooth from the X-Men movies. Like, he looks hilarious. He looks like he's having an absolute blast as the character. I know I'm rambling, but my God. Treasured memories. Like, if you love Ozzy and if you miss Ozzy, because I know I do, if you just want to see like a man just enjoying the hell out of a music video, go on YouTube, find Bark at the Moon and watch it. You will not be disappointed. he even features on the record, like the album cover. He just looks like he's having an absolute blast, dressed as a werewolf. And like Ozzy's also one of those guys that you kind of do and you kind of don't want to see a biopic made of him, because biopics are notorious for getting pretty much everything about a person's life either deliberately incorrect or just, for whatever reason, omitted. It's like, well, that never happened. It's like I was watching this TikTok, and this guy, he does like movie reviews and stuff like that, and he goes, oh, what's one thing from a biopic that you absolutely hate? And he mentioned Bohemian Rhapsody. I haven't seen Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm not particularly interested in seeing Bohemian Rhapsody, but one thing he mentioned is the Live Aid performance. And the thing about the Live Aid performance was, it was made to appear in the movie like it was a much bigger deal than it was. It's just sort of like, oh guys, this is so crazy. What if we mess up and everything like that, and it sort of paints the band as like this kind of weird sort of the underdog story has been done to death, and because it's so relatable and so overdone, it's almost expected. And they tried this underdog story with Live Aid, but at that point in Queen's career, they were a highly polished, very well rehearsed, and extraordinarily, well respected professional act at that point. And they just saw Live Aid as a bigger than average gig, but still a gig. And they made it seem in the movie like how were they gonna, find the ability to entertain all those people? And there's that kind of melodramatic, like, drama where none actually exists, kind of silly message that just gets injected into an otherwise fairly mundane. Like, Freddie Mercury absolutely knocks it out of the park. Like, the entire band is firing all cylinders and doing an amazing job, but it's still just a job. Hang on, let's see the ad. Kronos: The New Dawn. Ooh, that looks like a cool game. Might look into that. Might play that when I get a chance. I don't really have a huge amount of time during the day to play video games like I used to. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with how that's gone. So that's me with the hat and without the hat. Well, not in that particular order. And we've just gone over the hour mark, so I'm going to move on to the next thing that I'm going to be drawing. So just bear with me for a minute while I find my references. Shouldn't take too long. bear with me for just a minute. I've got to find my references. Where did I put my references? Let's see. So, welcome to the Sketch Jam portion of Sketch Jam. This is actually where I just do the drawing, a really quick drawing. Actually, I'll get out of there for just a minute. I should look. What's on there? Let's type that in. So again, this is one of those if you know things. These are how I sort of come up with sort of the basic idea. Because what I want to do is make these into stickers. At some point. That's the dream, at least. Oh, another one. Another great inspiration is Hotel Transylvania 3. Let's have a look. Hang on. Let's see if I can find it. Beach ball. That's actually pretty cool. Let's have a look-ski. I've always been fascinated by the ukulele, because every one of those tiny little guitars that I've owned has been pretty disappointing. Like, I get it that they might, like, the ukuleles that I've owned throughout my life have probably not been actual, authentic, proper, tuned guitar ukuleles. Like, I get the impression that every ukulele I've had has just been essentially a toy. You ever have that, like, you think that this miniature guitar can actually sound in any way like an actual guitar, and then you realize that all the strings are made of the same, like, I think it's like nylon or something, and no matter how you twist those the little tuning pegs, it sounds that like all the what are they called? All the strings on the ukulele sound exactly the same. Like, it doesn't matter how you tune it, because you can't tune it. It's just, let's put that over there. And I think, yeah, what I'll do is I will definitely come back to this one and sort of really flesh out these ideas, and not focus quite so much on redrawing a picture of myself from 2020. And yeah, I'll develop these sketch jam ideas a bit further. I also want to have some stuff ready for Halloween. I think that'll be important too. So I drew this earlier, as you can see on the logo on the hat right there. This is kind of a bigger version of it. Pineapple holding a cocktail. So I remember from this old 90s cartoon called The Tick, and there's this bad guy that he goes up against called Pineapple Pocopo. I'm trying to find a good reference image of him. Let's see if I can find him. So yeah, Pineapple Pocopo was a weird bad guy. I mean, all that show was weird, but he was definitely weird. You'll have to excuse me. The great thing about Sketch Jam is it's an excuse to allow yourself to get distracted. Just let the ideas flow freely. Realize I had a big old sweaty back. Yeah, we're going to be in for a particularly horrendously hot summer. I, for one, am personally looking forward to it. I love summer. I'm a big fan. Let's see. Okay, so I found that character. Might do some tikis as well. See, I recently discovered that Nelvana, the animation company, has they've gone under. And they've been around since 1974. And yeah, it was a good run, but they just couldn't keep up the momentum. They couldn't keep the game going, which is a real shame because, like, they were an absolute giant of Canadian TV animation. They were responsible for so many amazing, like, memories and stuff growing up. TV I used to watch, Inspector Gadget, and what else did they make? They made a bunch of stuff. Inspector Gadget was my favorite, and is pretty much the only one I can remember. So I mean, they had a far deeper impact, but just off the top of my head, like, the only cartoon I can think of that they made was Inspector Gadget. How sad is that? This Tiki looks a bit fried out of his mind. I'm just gonna copy paste that. Let's get rid of that. Oh dear. So this is how I just cook up some ideas. Surfboard. I might direct down a little bit. I might actually do a series of, what are they called? Pineapples. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, kind of goofy. Bit fun. Something silly. There's nobody I know. There's nobody I see that can possibly show they're exactly like me. She's got a big old hibiscus flower in her hair. Yeah, Hawaii is such a beautiful place. I was only there for a few hours. We had to stop over. But what I saw, I absolutely loved. I want to go back there, check it out, because there's a caricaturist there that I've been wanting to meet. Actually, it's a couple of different caricaturists. They work out. I'm not sure where they actually are. I think they're in Honolulu. I think they're in Honolulu or they're in Maui. I'm not entirely sure, but they draw really brutal caricatures, like insanely exaggerated drawings of people, like, you know. And one of them is called Caricature Party, and they're a couple, American. One is like Japanese American, I think, and they work side by side, and they just draw amazingly exaggerated caricatures. I absolutely love their style. They're the kind of caricaturist that everybody else that works as a caricaturist wants to draw like, but they're kind of afraid to. But these guys, they have literally no compunction at all to just, you know, go as hard as possible when it comes to exaggeration. And they absolutely deliver. It's hilarious. This is sitting just a little bit high. I'm not sure if that should go with the grass skirt, because yeah, the grass skirt's very sort of it's a bit dated, but it's kind of what everyone associates Hawaii with. These grass skirts. Coconut bras and stuff. He kind of looks a bit baked. I'm not a fan of that one, actually. Tikis are funny because the tikis that I grew up with were from New Zealand. Australia, on the other hand, despite being an island, does not have a tiki, or as Americans call them, tikis. So I worked as an entertainer at a place called the Freaky Tiki, which was a pub out in Newtown that specialized in like underground art and stuff like that. And I was hired to just draw. Like, they invited me along. They said, "Hey, we got some big pieces of paper. Can you just draw some cool stuff on that paper?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I just sort of made stuff up and just drew whatever, um, drew whatever I thought would look cool, you know. While there was a it was like a trivia night was being held, and we had a what are they called, drag queen doing the trivia. So I was kind of there as like sort of a bit of sideshow entertainment while the drag queen was doing the what are they called? Asking the questions and reading out the answers and stuff. I had a great time. That was fun as. Then it closed down. And I think it's under new management now. Like, the location's still there, but Newtown's one of those areas that's always close to being completely gentrified because of its proximity to the CBD, but that never truly ever happens. Like, it always sort of maintains its, grungy aesthetic no matter what. I used to be a big fan of that. Not so much anymore because, there's just not enough hours in the day to really care about that kind of thing. And I don't live anywhere near there like I used to back in the day. I mean, were it up to me, would I move back to that sort of the inner west area? Look, the short answer is yes. The long answer is probably not. Because the parking just kind of sucks. It's always important to stretch. Yeah. I think I'll chuck in some palm trees and call it a night. So I've got some Halloween stuff planned as well. Be on the lookout for that. Cool. Alrighty. I think that will do it for tonight. It's getting a little bit late, and I'm a little bit more tired than I realise. So I'm gonna call it there. I would like to thank everyone who tuned in, hung out, just chilled for a little bit, lurked, did the usual, look but don't say anything, as it were, in the chat. Don't worry, it's okay. I actually kind of appreciate just anyone showing up and checking it out. This has been Sketch Jam. I've been Ed, and thank you once again to anyone out there who came and watched the live stream. I'll be back later on this week, hopefully on Thursday, if I'm not too distracted by other stuff. We've got a convention coming up, not this weekend but next weekend. I'll be working live over at Olympic Park. I'll be doing Oz Comic Con Sydney, so it is the second of the two big conventions that I do each year. I used to do more back in the day. I used to do like Melbourne, Brisbane, Gold Coast. One year I went all the way over to Perth, Adelaide, but now I've definitely scaled back. I do not do nearly as many live. I don't do nearly as many live conventions, quite simply because it's not that I don't want to. I actually love visiting Melbourne. That's my home state. It's where I was born. I love going up to Brisbane. I've got quite a few friends up there. It's a great, wonderful city. There's something about Brisbane that is charming, simple, easygoing, and there's something about it that reminds me of what it was like, sort of, not so much visiting like a regional city, because it is kind of like a big regional city, but yeah, there's something about it that just resonates with me. I love Brisbane. I especially love North Queensland as well. Yeah, even Perth and Adelaide, they have their charm. Too far away, obviously, so I won't be trekking over there anytime soon. And the only reason why I don't is it just my profit margins are razor thin at best when I do just something that's like, only a half-hour drive from my house. So when I go interstate, flights and accommodation just basically clean out what little profit I'm gonna be bringing in, so I just don't bother anymore. So yeah, anyway, that's me rambling and making excuses and whatever. So I will call it there. Once again,